Are most people morally good? Rutger Bregman thinks so. He's a famous historian and he's written a book called A Hopeful History. There are many obvious examples that show that the opposite is true, such as the countless genocides of the 20th century. Bregman seems to have a very naive understanding of these things. In this video I will give a response and discuss the clear evidence that people are inclined to be evil. Welcome to the channel. My goal is to help you see and defend the truth of Christianity. In chapter 10, Bregman talks about children and why he thinks they are inclined to be good. He argues that there is scientific evidence that babies of only 6 months old know the difference between good and evil, and that they have a preference for the good. Scientists have set up a play with 2 dolls. One of them was a jerk and the other was caring. The babies had a clear preference for the caring doll. That's the evidence he presented. To be honest, I'm amazed that Bregman seems to present this research as evidence that babies are inclined to be good. This is very shallow evidence. No wait, this does not even merit the word evidence. This is just a fun fact about babies. The only thing you can prove with this fact is that babies prefer caring people instead of cruel people. But that's kind of obvious. If you are a completely dependent and helpless creature and you want to survive, then you need to surround yourself with as many caring persons as possible and with as few jerks as possible. At best this proves that babies have an inclination to survive, but we already knew that. After this, Bregman presents research from the German psychologist Felix Warneken. His experiments seem to reveal that children of 1.5 years old are eager to help others. They help early on and they do that spontaneously without being asked, offered a reward or observed by their parents. This makes us believe that human nature is not purely selfish, but we're equipped with some altruistic inclinations that can be elicited. This is an interesting finding, but at best this shows that human nature is not purely selfish. That is what Warneken himself concluded. That's all. Children are not pure evil, but that does not mean they aren't inclined to be evil. Bregman is very selective in making his case, because he doesn't discuss the elephant in the room. The elephant that every sensible parent knows about. Children are cute little monsters who need to be restrained and disciplined. A lot. I have 2 daughters myself, Sophie and Zoe, and don't get me wrong, they are sweet and cute children, but it's not difficult to see that they are not morally good. For example, it's easy to make Sophie interested in a toy that she actually finds very boring. I just give it to Zoe, and when Sophie sees that Zoe likes it, she takes it away and has to play with that toy. Why is that? Sophie is jealous and wants what Zoe has. We have not taught her this. Apparently this comes out naturally. She also regularly manipulates and pretends to cry to get things done. These are all things we haven't taught her. As parents, we need to constantly teach our daughters to not lie, steal, scream and hurt other children. We haven't taught them those things, they learn that themselves. We do, however, need to teach them that they are not the center of the universe, that they need to share toys, that they need to be honest and grateful. If children are morally good, you would expect the opposite. You would expect that they would naturally develop good traits such as gratefulness, selflessness and honesty. But it is common knowledge that the opposite is true. Children naturally develop bad traits such as lying and stealing, but not good traits. If you don't discipline children and only give them what they need, food and love, then after a while the child will become a spoiled monster. Apparently it's really hard to teach children to be altruistic because they are extremely self-centered. The best explanation for these facts is that children by nature are inclined to be evil. But not only children become monsters if they are not disciplined and restrained. Unfortunately, adults need to be disciplined and restrained as well.
This is my first time at Davos and I find it quite a bewildering experience, to be honest. I mean, I hear people talk in the language of participation and justice and equality and transparency. But then, I mean, almost no one raises the real issue of tax avoidance, right? And of the rich just not paying their fair share. I mean, it feels like I'm at a firefighters conference and no one's allowed to speak about water.
People in power can do whatever they want, and that is why they tend to become monsters too if they gain too much power. Even Bregman admits that power makes people corrupt. He shows that many studies have concluded that there is a so-called power paradox. People usually choose modest and kind people as their leaders. But as soon as these leaders have reached the top, there's a good chance they become arrogant. People in power behave more impulsive, selfish, reckless, arrogant, narcissistic and rude than average. They cheat more often, are not good listeners and don't put themselves in someone's shoes well. Power seems to be some sort of anesthesia that distances yourself from others. The reason, Bregman explains, is that powerful people mirror themselves less with others. They have less empathy. Even the best of people are prone to become evil once they've received a lot of power. Why is this? Bregman gives an illuminating answer. Those in power can afford their naivete because they are not judged for it. We've seen that if people are morally good, they are altruistic. Altruistic people have a similar concern for others as for themselves. As the Bible puts it, they love others as they love themselves. If this is really true for people, then you would expect that the amount of power a person has does not make a relevant difference in how they behave. If you are really concerned about the well-being of others, then you will act accordingly. So even though you have a lot of power and even though you are able to do many bad things without negative consequences for yourself, you wouldn't do those bad things because you know they would have negative consequences for others. On the other hand, if people are evil, they are selfish. Selfish people are mainly concerned about their own well-being. The fact that people in power become corrupt makes a lot of sense if we assume that they are selfish. Bregman even explains why humans lose their empathy when they become powerful. These people can afford to be like that because they are not judged for it. This is a self-centered motivation. People in power can get away with a lot of bad deeds. A dictator is free to steal, murder or commit adultery. Nobody stands in his way, so there will be no immediate negative consequences for him. This is the reason why people in power become corrupt. It is because in a sense, they already are corrupt. Without power, their selfish heart is restrained because they know that if they act out the evil desires of their heart, their actions will have negative consequences for themselves. It seems therefore that adults are just like children. Children are restrained to do evil in order to avoid punishment from their parents. Similarly, adults are restrained to do evil in order to avoid punishment from society. If an average person steals something, he has a high risk of going to jail. That risk serves as a strong motivation to restrain himself. So in short, whether we are talking about children or adults, if they are never disciplined and restrained, they tend to become spoiled monsters. This is good evidence that human nature is evil. But it gets even worse than this. In the next episode, I will talk about the countless genocides of the 20th century. Bregman goes so far as to suggest that even Nazi war criminals were only trying to do the right thing. If you want to see my response, then subscribe, hit the bell, and in the meantime, if you haven't done so yet, check out my previous videos of this series. Thanks for watching, I will see you in the next one.